Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I'm the Grace Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Wednesday, July 24th, 2024. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread? First card we are starting our day off with today is our 10 of Swords in its transverse. As you may be aware, we're going through a little bit of this pre-retrograde energy right now. So things feeling a little bit like the grinding of the gears, if you will. As I mentioned, a lot of that work, word of the day, measure twice, cut once. Now is not the time to be hasty. We articulated and discussed this at length yesterday. Why? Because there's a lot of that feeling of energetic frustration that's in the air. And I'm going to say it again. I was talking through this yesterday. This energy can be beneficial in putting a little fire under your butt. It's a little bit of that Leo energy, navigating you forward, that sense of righteous, like that sense of frustration, if implemented in proper ways, can really amplify that path work in terms of moving, and I have to stress this, moving it in the direction of taking action towards intention. What do I mean by that? That means that if now is that kind of time where you're feeling some of that frustration and you've been holding on to some plans, if you've been waiting for that motivator to take action on plans, this is really beautiful energy for that, because again, you're taking that righteous action and that egoic action, and you're moving it in the space of intentional, well thought activation. Now is not the time to feel it, to reverse that. Now is not the time to be feeling something in the moment and then completely changing one's own course and direction, because that modality, that experience is where we see, it's like the pathwork of the refinement. Remember what I said? A lot of that work between the 2 Capricorn full moons was helping us recognize that feeling of working under pressure, that feeling of navigating focus under pressure, that ability of doing so doesn't want to come into a reactive space, because that volatility, right? That volatility is like all that pressure that builds up. It can create that state or space of moving oneself inadvertently in a direction that feels oppositional to the one that you may be feeling like you were intended on going towards. That is why even now, making sure that you're not being triggered is so energetically important. Now again, energized, good. Feeling motivated, good. Taking frustration and moving it into a space or place of productivity right now is going to be the watchword. But if you're in that modality where you're allowing that like snappishness, if you will, to move you out of context and move you out of intentionality, you may be going into that modality here of self-correction, right? And maybe a little bit of that having to like feel like you need to backpedal a little bit. So even now, this is having a different impact depending on where we are, see ourselves in the frequencies. For masculine and feminine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, that is deep within the divine union frequency, this is a good thing. This is that modality of being able to extend one's own patience, right? This is the energy within the divine union that's working through that ability of extending one's own patience. Why is that being facilitated right now within the divine union frequency? Because as we discussed, if this is energy that has the benefit of the counterpart to allow a space of productivity wherein to exercise or to release or to vent any of those frustrations, any of those unhealthy coping mechanisms, those bad modalities of thought, those moments of self-doubt, anxiety, and fear. A lot of that decluttering, if you will, is almost allowing an ability to maintain balance in spaces and places wherein you may have felt previously you would have been at a lot more of a shorter fuse. And that's more, again, I told you why one of the reasons that is happening right now is because for the energy deep within the divine union frequency, recognizing the counterpart that's not necessarily doing the exact same path work of you, but doing path work that feels very parallel, if you will. They inform upon one another. We see even now that that is creating a moment of having new opportunities of motivation, new changes of perspective, new, like, almost being able to put more concentration on something, to be able to navigate and utilize and find a solution to some of those energetic hurdles that you may be experiencing. And again, I want to repeat that some of that dual path work that we're seeing right now, it feels a little different. And I have to stress here, this is that tie that binds, right? Because what did we navigate was occurring right now in relationality to the energetic lessons that masculine and feminine are both experiencing, but in different ways. Masculine right now, working through those modalities or experiences wherein you may be feeling like, navigating or interpersonal situations that feel like they provocate the inner child, right? Having that moment of wanting to come into that reactivity space because you feel like you're being treated like a child. What is a bit of that energy that we see that's a page from the feminine's book that the masculine is taking? Masculine is reaffirming to themselves the energetic lesson from the feminine energy, which is, again, if you are frustrated because someone is treating you like a child, don't indulge them by acting like one, right? So that is creating a space or place of masculine being able to find, again, what is the reward to doing that type of work? Patience. Feminine energy, going through that modality of a similar but different coursework in relationality to this is feminine, having to call back their energy, right? But feeling the guilt, feeling the shame, feeling the overwhelm, even at a moment that someone may be taking that energetically personally. What is the lesson that the page from the masculine's book that the feminine is utilizing? Feminine is reaffirming to themselves the fact and space of saying, when you move on the pathwork of knowing what's best for the self, you have to be prepared to energetically disappoint others, like some energy along the way. Right? That's not something, that isn't something that is avoidable. That is something that needs to be navigated and expected. That is creating for the feminine an ability to have patience, because that's the feminine almost are extending and articulating to others around them, saying, it's not that I can't do something or go forward in something. I'm looking for energy that requires and understands the energetic limits and the energetic standards that are being maintained in this modality. So we see even now that both of these energies, the takeaway is the ability to have patience through situations and circumstances that may have felt more triggering in the past, via the ability to observe the work of the counterpart and taking a little bit of that energetic lesson in the process. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, a lot of this energy is feeling that modality of having put a point, especially if these are modalities that brought forth a deeper energetic commitment towards one another during between that space of the Capricorn full moons, and in the modality of something being expressed versus something being activated upon. That is that moment of feeling the words being put into action. A lot of that energy coming deeper into divine union right now. Oh, that's almost that sense or that space of energetic release and relief. And it may be feeling like things have kind of reached an even keel. And this is a good thing. You'll remember, this is a good thing for the energy that is coming into divine union right now. Because if you recall, one of the analogies that we were giving about some of that feeling of wanting to change something, but not wanting to affect the intrinsic nature of it, was almost like that feeling of, again, having to try to adjust or build a boat on rough seas, but trying not to sink it in the process. So if energy has come through that experience, they've made those changes, they've reacted, they've experienced the reactivity or the volatility around them as they do, a little bit of this energy that we're seeing with this 10 of Swords feels like coming into calm water. It may feel like a moment of stillness, a moment of release and relief, having felt like you went through the hard part. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation, A lot of this same work of having to navigate, maintaining energetic patience to a certain extent is also being facilitated and is also occurring. Why? Particularly because, again, if there are outside circumstances that are affecting a new energetic connection, not trying to over-internalize an external problem, not taking that external problem personally, but being able to navigate it in a space of consideration, communication, and pragmatism. This is energy that is building trust with one another in the process of navigating less than ideal circumstances. At the same time, potentially closing and clarifying any experiences wherein they didn't receive that same grace from energetic counterparts, that they may have felt like they had enough of that building of trust that it should have been expected and anticipated, right? So if these are modalities where you're just building into an energetic connection with someone and you're already finding an ability to trust someone in a way that you couldn't trust an energy that you were in connection with prior, a lot of this energy is building forward in a connection, and they're able to maintain a point of patience because they're closing out a lot of karmic cycles on the way. It doesn't feel so much like a waiting period. It feels like that, like something is actively happening in the process of that occurring. Second card in our 5-card spread for today is, we've got here our 2 of Wands in its reversal. Not a lot of communication today I'm seeing here. I need to say this. We've got a lot of that pre-retrograde energy that's coming into bear here. So again, a lot of energy that is thinking very hard on how they are communicating. I'm feeling even now, this is like pressurized communication. This is like less is more communication to a certain extent, because this is the energy that is trying to be, and this is a bit of that, and that result of going through that Capricorn cycle. It's like that energy, the pressure that like creates a diamond. There's a lot of the energy right now that's trying to communicate in a way that is crystal clear. And sometimes when we hit that modality of trying to be as clear as possible, it can create a little bit of that, like, I want to say a little bit of that shortness, if you will, right? A little bit of that I want to say that value point in trying to articulate and carry something through in a way that feels like it is succinct. Why? Because even here, as we described, this is energy in separation that may be forging a new connection in less than ideal circumstances. So what is the energy in separation seeing that is building that sense of appreciation for the potential counterpart? This is energy that is not trying to prioritize themselves in the process of navigating those energetic hurdles, right? This is the energy that is not only working not to take something personally, but it's also trying to be energetically mindful of not commandeering a new energetic connections, like assuming or commandeering all of the other energetic connections, time, effort, and energy, if they're going through something that is difficult here. So even here, it's not the fact that there isn't communication that is occurring under those circumstances. It's that the communication is extremely energetically mindful. It's like almost like a telegram. It's like trying to distill as much as possible in the shortest communication methods for the sake of being energetically mindful of another person's bandwidth. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, this is the energy that is feeling like peace in the kingdom, if you will. Like there's a little bit of this like moment right now that feels like a bit of energetic release and relief. Because if this is energy that at the beginning of the Capricorn full moon cycle really focused, like they put their path work into play, potentially even articulating what those plans were in changing something. And then in the process between the Capricorn full moons, when about making those changes, like literally like feeling like you were building a ship at sea in the process of navigating those turbulent waters, having done so effectively, being able to make a change to something without losing the intrinsic nature of it. A lot of this energy is feeling that sense of satisfaction and release. It's some of that energy, it's some of that Leo energy coming into play, a little bit of that like patting on the back, if you will, because this is almost the energy that's saying, we did it. And this is and now the communication is the energy saying, I was worried along the whole way. I was terrified. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of energy where they're now expressing what they were like almost too anxious to express during that period, because they didn't want the fears or the anxieties to override the process. So this is a lot of that energy being like, that was terrifying. The other energy is like, I know, I was really worried that we were going to hit those rocks. Oh, I saw those rocks. I didn't say anything. It's a little bit of that type of energy. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within the divine union frequency, this is a lot of attunement that's happening. This is a lot of energy right now that's so deep within the divine union that there isn't necessarily even the need or the ability to have to communicate one's own frustrations. I'll point out that a lot of that energy right now, deep within the divine union, having that ability to vent towards someone, it creates that sense of decluttering, right? And immediately it's like that moment of feeling an expression of frustration and then feeling someone and recognizing that they are in the same modality. This is the energy that's almost working again on almost like that intuitive energetic connection that doesn't even bear like articulate communication, because this is the energy that almost like knows where another is at and is able to be very energetically patient in the process, because this is energy that almost doesn't need to put it into words, right? That's almost coming into that state or space, if you will, that doesn't like require that point of recognizing or identifying or even articulating, because you know that you're on the same page, if you will. So we see even now, not only is a lot of the gift of the energy within the divine union receiving that moment of clarity and building into patience by taking a page from the other person's book, but at the same time we also recognize and identify that that same work that is being facilitated there is allowing the energy. What happens when you have a space or place where you know you can vent? When you have a space or place where you know you can kind of release any of that energetic frustration, it allows you a heightened level degree of patience. So a lot of this energy is able right now to navigate difficult circumstances where they might even previously have recognized they would have been more easily triggered. And the valuation point of the energetic connection is simply being able to be in a modality wherein they're recognizing that they're able to not be hold their own ability to feel like they have to explain themselves. And that is having different impacts on masculine and feminine energy. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. If this is masculine energy that is feeling that frustration of having that inner child, having that inner child wound expressed, like having that moment of someone being like chicken, like that kind of energy, like something like that. And like masculine, like feeling that sense of like wanting to like move forward in that way. The masculine reaffirming their energetic lesson from the feminine, basically saying to themselves, if someone is treating me like a child, I don't indulge them by reacting as one. We see here that that's creating an ability of the masculine to be able to navigate forward with a deepening sense of energetic patience. If this is feminine, that would usually be in a modality of overly apologizing to others because of their energetic overwhelm, trying to overcompensate in those spaces and places. This is the feminine that is holding forth and doing that, because this is the feminine doing that work again within the self, stating and saying, Feminine's like, I don't have to apologize for calling back my energy. I have to recognize that if I move forward and I focus on the self, that's going to require disappointing other energy in the process. That is not a failure point of the feminine. That is part and parcel for moving forward in such a way that allows for that sense of energetic strengthening. We see even now that both of these energies within the divine union, feeling that sense of energetic patience that comes through, that allows for that vibration of being able to remain consistent. Third card in our 5-card spread for today is Queen of Wands in its upright. So again, a lot of this energy coming into a point of easement. I know last week we saw a lot of that energetic frustration coming to bear. We recognize that for a lot of the masculine energy, a lot of vulnerability coming forward. But we see even now, and for feminine, feeling some of that energetic overwhelm, right? What we're effectively recognizing and identifying here for a lot of this energy, we see even now feminine energy coming into a space or place of being able to feel that sense of confidence, right? Having that sense of energetic confidence, being able to feel that sense of energetic resiliency, if you will. For masculine, that is that modality of feeling, again, that energetic strength or activation that was inspired by the feminine energy. So we see even now, and this is what's interesting, even in, it's not the fact that we're seeing that some of this pre-retrograde energy, if you will, is creating a state or space of a lack of communication, so much as we see that a lot of the work right now within this retrograde period that we're coming into has to do with the refinement of articulation. Let me be clear. It's that kind of energy. Let me be clear. So for masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within the divine union, a lot of that productive communication, if you will, that is helping really carve that sense of like recognizing and identifying what those plans are. And for masculine right now, it's almost, and it's interesting because this is the difference that is happening in the path work. For masculine, this is about holding the tongue, right? This is about the masculine holding their tongue. For feminine, this is about speaking from a point of confidence instead of from a point of apology. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, for a lot of the energy coming into divine union right now, this is that moment of the counterparts. This is now the moment of the feminine finally feeling that point of I want to describe this as of energetic trust, of energetic security. Because for a lot of this energy, again, the best way I can describe what we're seeing here is if this was a deepening energetic commitment that was brought forward from masculine at the start of the Capricorn full moon cycle, the first Capricorn full moon. That's when the feminine took that deep breath, right? And then seeing the masculine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, being able to immediately act upon what was stated. That is the feminine that immediately comes into that space of exhalation. So if the masculine felt elation at the time that they first brought forward that commitment offer, but feminine felt like a more of that holding of the breath, and masculine trusted the connection as opposed to building into that space of assumption. Now we see the feminine feeling that vibration and excitement of activation. Now we see the feminine coming into that space of energetic elation that matches where we found the masculine about a month ago. Because now the feminine energy feels the vitality, not just of what the masculine stated, but what the masculine does. And to see the feminine, and for the feminine feeling like that, in the immediacy of that occurring, a lot of the feminine energy moves into that sense of, again, confidence in oneself, in now being able to articulate to the masculine what those doubts were, what those fears were, or potentially what those experiences were from the past that had the feminine energy not in a state of exultation or excitement, but in a state of anticipation. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is in separation, And for masculine, receiving that on the part of the feminine may feel like a huge amount of relief, because if there was something about that feeling of the feminine holding back or being in that state of anticipation, now recognizing that the feminine's coming into that state of trust, coming into that state of like matching you in that vibration, this is almost a moment that you're finally potentially feeling the joy of a feminine that's able to match your own energetic excitement, because they recognize that what you said wasn't just words, that you are someone that's moving forward with that same energetic commitment on those words. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation, a lot of that energy right now in separation, this is feeling like more of that sense or that space of having to navigate through a feeling of anticipation, but also not allowing oneself to feel triggered in the course of that. Because for a lot of the energy right now, if there are outside obstructions that are causing a bit of that slowness in terms of a new energetic connection forming, the energy experiencing and seeing the reality of what is truly an inconvenience. For a lot of the feminine energy, this is a closing out of past energetic cycles, especially and particularly if there was a masculine energy connection that they had in the past that always had inconveniences, that anything could be turned into an inconvenience. And now the feminine energy is seeing someone who is truly inconvenienced, but seeing the determination of will of the energy moving through it, even in the modality of experiencing that. That is the clarity that comes through to a certain extent, that is reaffirming feminine energy's own energetic commitment in understanding and feeling like this is the raising of their own standards. This is a lot of the feminine recognizing and saying that experiencing and realizing and coming into that point, much like the energy within the divine union. This is a feminine energy that's like raising their own energetic standards in the process of experiencing something that is occurring within a new energetic connection, because it is building upon them the sense of recognizing how consistent, how direct a masculine can be, even in the wake of a true, authentic, energetic inconvenience. While for masculine energy right now, that is in separation, going into that modality, experiencing that modality of looking to a feminine and saying, please don't take this personally. Please do not think that this is an excuse that I'm making. Please do not come into that space of assuming the worst. I know it looks so easy to be able to do so. Seeing a feminine energy that is able to, again, navigate through a difficult experience that you yourself are having, but with a sense of grace, with a sense of patience, not taking it energetically personally, but also still being very present within it. There's a lot of energy right now within separation that is building a lot of pathwork and forging very strong energetic bonds in less than ideal circumstances, while also closing a lot of karmic chapters on the way. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Fourth card in our 5-card spread for today is the Knight of Pentacles in its reversal. So for masculine and feminine energy, you can see why this can feel so frustrating right now for some of the energy in separation. Because if this is feminine, if this is masculine, that is experiencing a bit of that tangible hurdle right now, this is the masculine energy doing everything in their energetic power. And I see even now, this is either like, and I have to stress, there's a little bit of something different happening here for feminine. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. If this is masculine energy that is trying to come towards feminine at a time that it feels like the rest of the world is stacked against them in doing so, this is the masculine energy that is almost articulating that towards the feminine, but from a place of openness, honesty, and clarity, right? This is not the masculine energy building into that realm of expectation or oversetting the expectations. This is the masculine energy articulating, again, about where they are potentially indisposed at this time versus what they would aspire and desire to give towards feminine going forward. For feminine energy, having that modality of, again, like I said, in separation, the difference between the desire of a masculine that is trying to move towards feminine and is feeling that sense of trying to navigate through all of those hurdles on the way. If this is a feminine energy that either at the same time or from past experiences had a disruption in an energetic connection with masculine due to the piling on of dozens and dozens and dozens of minor inconveniences, this is the clarification that is both being received in the present, that is also closing out any chapters from the past. Because once the feminine energy recognizes how someone can move through an inconvenience from a place of openness, honesty, and clarity, well, that kind of sets the new energetic standard. While for masculine and feminine energy, and so for masculine, seeing a feminine in that modality that, again, isn't taking it personally, but is almost able to look at the masculine at that moment of articulating an inconvenience and saying, no, I understand. There's nothing you have to apologize for, right? We see even now, there's some deep bonds that are potentially being created here. And at the same time, it feels like progress, even if there isn't progress occurring, because the progress that is occurring is via V communication. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into divine union, a lot of this work that is happening right now, if this is energy that when the masculine brought forward the energetic offer and feminine held their breath, and now they're seeing a masculine that can not only articulate what it is that they desire and aspire, but they can navigate the rough waters that moving in that direction potentially brought forth. This is the feminine that's potentially only now articulating to masculine their relief, by articulating to masculine those experiences from the past wherein they may have felt that masculine articulated something in that way but never acted upon it. So even now we feel like there's that deepening of the energetic connection that is occurring here, while at the same time even deeper healing from experiences from the past wherein that occurred. For masculine energy right now that is coming into divine union, a lot of that work that we see that is happening right now, working through or facilitating through that path work, that again feels like that sense of really prioritizing and prioritizing the connection with the feminine. So even there, if this is a masculine that's experiencing or seeing a feminine that is articulating upon those experiences wherein they didn't see the masculine bring forth what they articulated that they desired to do, that's a masculine that again feels that affirmation of feminine saying in their own commitment, I'm going to create that space or state where you never have to fear that again. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is deep within the divine union, a lot of this work that we see is occurring right now within the frequency has to do with the ability of being patient or resilient, depending on whether you align to masculine and feminine energy. For masculine, again, going through that modality where if it doesn't matter if someone puts something forward to you, you're thinking more about whether it feels like it's in alignment to you, moving with intentionality instead of feeling triggered. A lot of this energy right now, the masculine, is almost building that sense of observing the energy that may be saying and recognizing and saying, I'm sorry you see me that way, but I'm not going to indulge you by giving you what you expect, particularly if you're looking at me from a space of trying to identify or recognize or communicate with the inner child, right? That's almost like masculine saying, I'm not going to indulge you if you're making that energetic assumption. While for feminine, that's again, the feminine energy is looking towards the energy of outside connections and saying, if there's something about me having to prioritize what I need and recognizing that I need to call my own energy back in some way to facilitate path work forward, if there's energy that takes that personally, that's almost the energy saying, well, it seems that you might not understand the situations. We might not necessarily be in alignment because that's not a modality of feminine doing something to be able to be of to take something personally, but that's almost the feminine articulating from a point of strength wherein they may have previously articulated from a point of apology. Fifth card in our 5-card spread. So again, taking note lessons from one another that are facilitating different work, but work that is both building upon the the aspect of patience. For masculine, it is patience within the self. From feminine, it's the patience that they feel must be a standard from others surrounding them. Fifth card in our 5-card spread, please. We have here our 9 of Cups in its upright. We love to see this card right now, especially in combination with our 10 of Swords in its transverse. Now, for masculine and feminine energy within the divine union frequency, a lot of this energy feels like it is restorative. A lot of this energy feels like, again, like we're seeing even now, this is like the energy within divine union that feels like they're building a bridge, right? This is the energy that feels to, in a certain way, that they're building a bridge, and especially if they feel like they're receiving less than ideal materials to do so. This is the energy that looks and says, how can I move this into a space that feels like it's positive? How can I move this into a space that feels like it's productive? That's why we see a lot of that sense of energetic patience coming through. Because again, if these are circumstances where in the past masculine would have found themselves more triggered, right? Especially energy coming towards them and approaching them like an inner child, and the masculine being like, this person's treating me like an inner child, I'm going to react. And that masculine going, I'm not going to react, because when I react in that modality, I'm indulging their perception of me. So we see even now that that's creating a moment of masculine being able to bring forth something more compassionate to an experience that they may have felt less inclined to be compassionate towards in the past. Again, the healing energy within the frequency. While for feminine, if this is feminine that is changing their own perception in having to disappoint others, almost again, the feminine saying, I'm not disappointing anything. I'm just making sure that everyone recognizes that what needs to happen needs to occur on the timeline that feels most comfortable for the feminine. This is both masculine and feminine. They're almost looking towards interpersonal relationships that they feel need repair. And this is feminine almost saying, there's also a bridge here. And your bridge is recognizing the patience that is required in order to facilitate a pathwork of engaging with me. So we see even now that both of these energies moving into that space of, even if they're experiencing something that feels less aligned to them, having that point of being able to be compassionate in such a way that they allow for that amplitude of change to potentially occur, even around frustrating situations, i.e. the patience coming into pair based in the space or place of compassion. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into divine union, a lot of that work that is occurring right now for the energy coming into divine union has to do with that feeling of finally being able to let out that sigh of relief. There's a lot of this feeling here of energetic accomplishment that is potentially occurring. Because again, moving in that modality of seeing that some of this energy building upon the desire of making some kind of energetic change within a partnership at the start of the first Capricorn full moon, experiencing all those rocky waters between them and the bookending of the second Capricorn moon, and then seeing not only the articulation of the desire for change, but seeing those changes occur throughout. That is allowing for a lot of that stability and solidity to occur in whatever that change was, that is now allowing for that expression and expansion point of all of the doubts and fears that one may have navigated as you were articulating or moving through some of those waters. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, in separation, a lot of this work that we see is occurring right now for the energy in separation has to do with the feeling that even if something is delayed, there is something that is still being built. And for a lot of the energy right now, experiencing that difference, not something that feels stop-start, something that's not there and then is, but an energy that is able to maintain a consistent communication, even in the midst of something being energetically delayed. It is building a point of clarity for energy right now, particularly around circumstances or situations where they may have felt that every inconvenience was put forth as opposed to every solution. So we see even now, even in that space of some of the energy and separation, there's already a lot of karmic clearing that's happening, built upon the realization or the recognition of what feels like a true, authentic inconvenience that is now building a point of clarity, particularly for feminine, on what it actually looks like if someone is inconvenienced. And for masculine, seeing a feminine that doesn't come into a space or place of taking something energetically personally, but being able to facilitate communication in such a way that it's mindful, that it's trying to be conscientious of what the masculine is going through. These are energies that are forging a very, very compassionate connection in the process of potentially difficult circumstances and situations. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our 10 of transverse with our 2 of wands in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with Ace of Wands. A lot of activation. We often see a lot of this activation that occurs prior to the retrograde cycles really coming into play. It's trying to get everything done before that retrograde cycle comes in. But we see even now, it's not the fact that there aren't things being done. It is the fact that this feels like extremely precise work, if you will. So that's why we see even now a lot of that work that we're recognizing that is occurring for energy in separation. There's a lot of that feeling of, I want to say, mindfulness in discretion in terms of what and how you're communicating towards one another, specifically for the sense of recognizing, again, for masculine, trying to navigate forward in a way of, again, not over amplifying the difficulties or not wanting to feel like you're over commodifying upon the energetic, like the energy of the feminine at a time that you're just building into a connection. Feminine having that same level and degree of mindfulness. So this could be very limited but very impactful communication. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into divine union, this is the communication that one has only after one has experienced something where a lot of doubts and anxieties and fears may have occurred. Because that's almost the energy, again, navigating something sensitive, not wanting to amplify a fear by articulating it in the process. This is a lot of the energy that felt like they were trying to steer that ship into calmer waters to a certain extent. Now that they feel like they've reached those calmer waters, it feels like that ability to be able to articulate upon what one experienced in a much more openness. So this could almost feel like the clearing of a channel of communication for energy that's moving deeper into the divine union right now, having gone through what felt like some energetic difficulty or those energetic hurdles in making changes to a partnership. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within divine union, we are effectively seeing that a lot of this work, this is not so much communication here, this is more activation. This isn't even energy within the divine union that may be articulating upon this to one another. This is just the energy that is observing the counterpart and activating, kind of like I said, taking one another's notes, if you will. So we see even now this could be a day of a lot of work or a lot of activation of work. But again, that very precise communication, potentially because you recognize and see all of the work another is doing. Not wanting to, again, much like the energy that was in separation. So these are energies that are kind of matching each other, not feeling the need or the desire to commodify someone's time, effort, and energy, especially if you feel like they're trying to put into practice somewhere else. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our 2 of Wands and its reversal in combination with our Queen of Wands and its upright. One card to clarify, please. Come on out. I know you want to come out. We've got here, I'm not surprised to see it. This card may look familiar. We had it yesterday. We've got here our 9 of Pentacles in its reversal. So we see even now that for a lot of that energy within divine union right now, that feeling or that experience of, again, utilizing, I want to say, not overcomplicating things. The gift that the energy right now provides one another within the divine union is not being the source of the energetic complication. So that's that easement, if you see. So for a lot of the energy right now within divine union, this is almost that energy that looks towards one another. And if they feel that sense of frustration, they look towards the counterpart and they feel the relief and release of the energy not being a part of that energetic difficulty. It's a space or place where they can put those burdens down. So we see even now that for the energy deep within that divine union frequency, this is the energy that is navigating those problems separately because they want to be able to put them down when they're energetically together. Right? This is like the energy that like really tries to facilitate as much as they can. And they're not doing it for the sake of the counterpart. They're doing it for the sake of their own self. But this is the energy that almost immediately activates and tries to create solutions where they see those problems are, because they don't like to put those burdens on others. So for a lot of the energy in that modality, that is that point that it feels like it's like that energetically supportive system, because it feels like you're with a counterpart that does same to a certain extent. And in a way, it's that reliance point that, like, if there isn't communication on something there, it's because someone is taking care of it, like they've got it energetically covered. So this is almost like the energy within divine union that looks towards one another, not as a way to, like, I want to say this, not trying to put their burdens on each other, but doing everything they can to create a burden-free environment for one another. Like, this is the energy that feels even now like they're both facilitating through that work that allows for that feeling of easement and almost allows for that feeling of energetic enjoyment. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into divine union. A lot and a lot of that work right now coming into divine union is that same state or space. And a lot of that, I have to say, is actually more in the realm of energetically unpacking what just occurred. Because if this is energy that went through a process of changing their relationship dynamic, deepening some kind of energetic connection, either be it in like a deepening of like a tangible partnership, or in the way that something is articulated, potentially even some movement here, we recognize that for a lot of the energy in that modality right now, navigating those circumstances, this is almost the energy that like held their they did not articulate their doubts and fears, specifically the feminine. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Almost maintaining that point of, again, holding one's breath, not wanting to articulate upon one's doubts and fears. This may now be that moment of the feminine expressing what those doubts and fears were that had them in that state of trepidation in the process. But we see even now like that becomes the energetic tie that binds, if you will. Specifically and particularly, if this is energy of feminine that may have experienced pathwork of the past that recreated that sense of anxiety towards them, this is almost the masculine looking towards the feminine and saying, I'm modifying that commitment to let you know that that's never something that you can fear or expect from me. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation, this is a lot of the energy that's articulating the difference between what may feel like a momentary inconvenience versus a long-term situational obstacle. Because even here, we see the feminine looking towards masculine. And if this is a masculine that's being very open, being very articulate, being very clear to the feminine about what they can and cannot expect, that is the feminine energy that almost immediately feels like there is that intangible agreement that is occurring between the masculine and feminine, because this is a feminine that looks towards masculine and says, this isn't a masculine that tries to build a world of illusion around me. This is a masculine that is revealing that their gift to me will always be their transparency, their clarity, their clarity, and their commitment to making sure that I have a choice in terms of how to proceed forward. So we see even now that if that's a feminine in that modality, that's a feminine that almost immediately meets that and says, I can navigate a difficult circumstance as long as there's communication. As long as that's that moment of the energy of the feminine, recognizing the energetic commitment that can happen in the wake and in the face of difficult circumstances, that's healing a lot of the feminine between circumstances in the past that felt like the vibration was always being interrupted continually by ongoing any inconvenience being used to articulate what was wrong energetically. While for masculine energy right now, seeing a feminine that's able to come into that place of power of communication, not taking a disruption point energetically personally, but at the same time holding their own energetic standards, not being adaptable and available to anything, but utilizing the clarity of the masculine in terms of articulating to the masculine what they can and cannot expect in that connection, given the circumstances that are at play. These are energies that are almost, again, building an energetic commitment towards one another, even at the start of a new connection, because it is the clarity, the communication, and the consistency that is being forged at this time that feels like, it feels like the tie that binds. And there's no faking that. And for a lot of the energy that felt like there were disruptions in those modalities in the past, the clarification of seeing what can emerge even during a moment of difficulty is potentially healing anything from the past that they were still holding on to, that it was still experiencing some pain from those vibrations. I'm continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Queen of Wands in its upright and our Knight of Pentacles in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now. I told you with this Ace of Pentacles, because what is being created for some of these energies right now is intrinsic. It's something that is intrinsic. It's not having to do with the tangibility of what is being offered. It has to do with being able to discover the true, tangible, intrinsic connection between the masculine and the feminine. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. So if these are energies right now that even if they're not immediately in connection, what they feel between them is present. What they feel between them is recognized. What they feel between them is beyond words. And they're trying to navigate those hurdles to the best of their abilities to be able to move towards each other with more of that, conviction. This is the energy that immediately heals from spaces or places wherein they felt like someone was trying to articulate that they had an intrinsic connection, but it felt like it was constantly being interrupted by the most minor of inconveniences, right? It's just like a drama-free zone. This is like discovering a drama-free zone in a space or place that feels like it's built for drama. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into divine union. This is the energy of the feminine, feeling the vitality of seeing a masculine that doesn't let an energetic connection get averted, diverted, or messed with due to some energetic drama. That's why we saw, to a certain extent, the feminine almost holding their energetic breath if this was masculine that put forward towards them some kind of energetic commitment, and the feminine took a little bit more, didn't take it at full certainty there, but took a bit of that wait and see, held one's breath, if you will, because this is potentially the feminine energy that may have experienced experiences in the past where someone said they wanted to move deeper into an energetic connection with feminine, and feminine almost looking and being like, that's when all the drama started, right? Because that's the masculine having to experience some of the tangible responses or reactivity of the energy around them at a time that an energetic connection that was forming that may have dissolved or ruined the energetic connection that was coming into process. While for masculine energy right now, experiencing and receiving that from the part of the feminine, this is the masculine that may be articulating to feminine the easement, the clarity through which they can build communication here. May have been, again, the masculine energy looking towards the feminine and saying, not only would I never do that to you, but how could someone ever do that given how much clarity and authenticity that you bring towards them in an energetic connection? So we see even now, like, this is becoming that deepening of the connection by articulating where those doubts and fears sprung, but at the same time, the reaffirmation of experiencing something that is oppositional to them. While for the energy right now that is in separation, that's that. And for like a lot of this energy right now that's deep within the divine union, this is the strength of the intrinsic connection between you and the counterpart, right? And this is the energy that, again, is not just the fact that you're moving in a certain way, but the way that you move is informed on the connection that you have with the counterpart, right? So this is almost masculine, potentially in divine union, going, the old me would have done this, but now I'm in energetic connection. I don't do that anymore. In fact, the person I'm in energetic connection with taught me to do this, either intrinsically or I'm taking a page from their book. While for the feminine energy in divine union, looking towards masculine and being like, how would masculine handle this situation? Would masculine come into that modality of apology? Would masculine come into that space of like feeling that sense of tripping over themselves because they don't have the bandwidth, even though they desire to? That's the feminine being like, no, I'm not going to apologize for requiring that. I'm going to make that an energetic standard by which I can determine and define who feels like they're in the modality where they can connect with me. So we see even now like a lot of that energy, feminine, building into that point of resilience and confidence, masculine coming into that modality of non-reactivity. Continuing to get clarification between our Knight of Pentacles in its reversal and our Nine of Cups in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through with our Hierophant in its upright. Now, masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within the divine union frequency. Like, again, this is the energy that's literally looking at circumstances and situations and saying, were it not for the commitment, go on. Like, this is the energy that, like, again, the interstitial between the activation point of how this energy moves is thinking with conscientiousness towards the energetic connection, right? And this is almost that undefinable bridge that is created, because that's the energy that values and recognizes not only what they have with a counterpart, but it also informs upon how they move or how they think or how they adjust or how they react, because that's that moment that feels like that true commitment. It's not just the words, but it's almost that intrinsic connection that you have with another that builds into that space of mindfulness for the counterpart at every moment along the way. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, this is the energy that is truly now in a moment that they both feel the valuation of that connection and that commitment, because this is the masculine recognizing and realizing that until the feminine saw the commitment being put into action, that was the feminine that was almost kind of, again, having a little bit of that anticipation and the hope that something was coming forward, but not wanting to build too much in the realm of expectation or assumption. So for masculine, that same modality or vitality of experiencing this, now it feels like it is real, especially because, again, if this is a masculine who's navigating through the hurdles or the difficulties of bringing that into fruition, that's a masculine that's also recognizing their own internal strength that allows them to operate with that commitment of will, even in experiences that feel like there almost requires that sense of like carving out your own path. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is in separation, a lot of this work right now in separation has to do with a lot of like an authentic energetic commitment that may be forming in less than ideal circumstances or situations, because what we're really identifying right now for a lot of this energy is the point of clarification on how strong an energetic bond can be built even in the midst of less than ideal circumstances. It's clarifying and it's clearing up any cycles that felt like building that energetic bond was a problem in the first place. Right? If that was the energy that was recognizing and being like, it wasn't the inconveniences that were a problem with that bond. That's the energy that immediately, even in forming a connection in less than ideal circumstances, immediately gets that clarifying closure upon those experiences of the past. Told you, closure is not given going backwards. Closure is received going forwards. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now, between our Ace of Wands in its reversal and our Nine of Pentacles in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification. Not every card, please. We had that happen yesterday. We had it happen in the beginning today. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now. We like to see this. A lot of activation today, particularly with our Hanged Man in its reversal. Now, for masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation, this is the clarifying closure that's either letting energy move forward or letting energy close a door. Because for a lot of the energy right now, that experience, like I said, this is just reaffirmation of that. Less than ideal situations, but feeling the tangible progress through the situations that are less than ideal. Not feeling like the tangible situation is the blocker because of the activated communication. This is the energy that feels that sense of freedom. And if this is energy that was holding on to experiences in the past that was hitting all of those stumbling blocks, if this is energy that was navigating a circumstance that the minorest inconvenience was almost always either, again, from masculine's perspective, taken personally, right? Or from the point of the feminine, masculine always postponing or finding some point of creating volatility between the connection between them and the feminine because of the inconveniences. This is the energy that immediately gets karmic closure on anything in the past via the clarity of what they're experiencing in the present. This is the energy that's like basically just like washing their hands of it, because that's that moment that feels like the clarity of the past is being experienced and expressed by what you're receiving in the present. And that's happening for both of the energies in that vibration. While for masculine and feminine energy, same thing, closing out of any of those karmic cycles from the past, particularly and especially of, again, if this is feminine that saw masculine that not only articulated a desire to come forward into an energetic connection, but then started moving immediately into that space of taking action. Well, that immediately is the feminine that comes into that space of trust, the deepening of the trust that feels like the true energetic bond, because that's the feminine looking towards masculine and saying, I trust this individual. Whereas again, for masculine, seeing the feminine come into a state or space of saying towards masculine, I trust you. And I see how much work you've done. And I see even here, you're not afraid to facilitate on what it is that you aspire and desire for. This is masculine, again, almost saying to feminine, that is because you are my priority. And so for both of these energies right now, being very much in alignment and feeling that alignment is like what's helping you both feel that sense of moving deeper into energetic commitment, and at the same time, healing a lot of that past karma in the process. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is deep within the divine union, a lot of this work that we see is occurring right now has to do with feeling the vitality of recognizing what is an internal problem versus something that you are externally experiencing. Because if this is the energy that used to have a little bit of a quagmire there, being in connection with counterpart, having that clear mirror clarifies that up, right? And especially because a lot of this energy right now is pushing their own envelopes in relationality to how they are reacting to circumstances via the energy of the counterpart, taking that energetic lesson that they see another has learned and utilizing it in their own way. This is the energy that's harmonizing through those difficulties, but being ever mindful of prioritizing the value of the lessons of the connection as they do so. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Nine of Pentacles in its reversal and our Ace of Pentacles in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Two of Pentacles. So I'm not surprised that we're not getting completely away from all of this Pentacle energy. We had to go through those experiences, if you will recall, over that Capricorn cycle, right? The book ending of the Capricorn full moons that put a lot of pressure, a lot of tangible pressure, the work of the tangible reality, the pressurization point. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy navigating those circumstances or situations, as it were, this is a lot of the energy that is, again, this is more of that vibration of dispersing and discerning what is a problem or circumstance or lesson that needs to be navigated from within versus something that needs to be addressed without. So again, for masculine and feminine energy right now that is in that modality, what we're effectively seeing at this time is, again, that is the value point of these lessons being different, but also being correlated because it's teaching resilience and patience. So again, if this is masculine energy that has someone approaching them and feels like they're triggering the inner child to react and respond, masculine taking the lesson from the feminine's book and saying, you know, if someone treats you like a child, don't indulge them by reacting like one. This is the masculine that, again, feels that sense of, again, holding that firm, that not feeling like they need to prove themselves externally in a way that moves them off their own energetic path. For feminine energy experiencing that modality, if these are situations or circumstances where, again, the feminine is feeling the frustration of having to energetically disappoint energy around them as they prioritize things. But again, reaffirming their own commitment and lesson from the masculine, again, navigating and saying, when I make those choices that are important towards me, that isn't, and like that ability of having to move with directionality has to be in a modality where I'm recognizing and remembering that I'll have to also be able to disappoint some energy as I prioritize. This is a lot of the energy that, again, is moving into a space of resiliency. So for both of these energies right now, that's that moment that it feels like those are the lessons that are correlating, even if they're different, right? And it has to do with experiencing something that you may have had in the experience in the past, but having a different perspective on it. And that's a perspective that that the counterpart potentially has brought forth within you. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into divine union, a lot of this work is finally feeling the easement in the offer that may have been put forth prior to this, feeling it becoming tangible reality. And for a lot of the energy that's experiencing that relief or release, if there was something that you were intrinsically trying to keep focus on while changing in the process, this is that modality of celebration, because that's the energy that feels like they've done so successfully. And now that they've done so, they can express all of their anxieties and fears that were occurred in the process. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, in separation, this is a little bit of that energy that feels like they're almost operating in two worlds. Because if this is energy that is working through those situations and circumstances where they're building this deep energetic connection with a potential counterpart, even here, this is energy that's not trying to get ahead of itself. It's not trying to rush ahead. It's not trying to put the cart before the horse, right? And even here we see that there may be a little bit of that energetic conservation that's occurring, because some of the energy is feeling the anxiety about whether something will actually come into tangible fruition. But is this energy building into the world of assumption? Is the energy for allowing the shadow of the past to cast doubt on what could happen in the present? No. This is the energy that's recognizing and discerning the difference between what was experienced in the past versus what is being experienced in the present. And a lot of it may have to do with feeling the intrinsic solidity of a connection, even through less than ideal circumstances, that is fortifying one's own determination to continue forward in that connection. Continuing to get clarification between our Ace of Pentacles in combination with our Hierophant. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our 10 of Pentacles in its upright. And we like to see this here. This is positive. This is productive, because for a lot of the energy right now, I need to stress this. A lot of the energy right now in separation that may be building upon some of these new energetic connections. It's that feeling, and I told you this is why there was that little bit of that argument happening between the state of assumption versus intuition, right? Assumption saying, assume the past is repeating itself, assume that's occurring again. Intuition saying, look a little closer, put on your glasses, focus, see the difference if you feel that there's a difference there. Because what we're effectively seeing right now, for a lot of the energy that is in separation, is the reality of a circumstance or situation, right? Looking towards something, feeling the reality of a present inconvenience, but also, even in that modality, the amount of stability and solidity that is occurring over less than ideal circumstances is building that sense of the energy, saying, if this is how consistent an energy can be in a less than ideal circumstance, imagine what that would be in something that feels like it's in even better, like if the situation were resolved. Because that, again, we're starting to see the framework of an energy that's not looking to change an energetic connection via the changing of a situation or scenario. This is the energy that remembers and reaffirms that changing situations and circumstances don't change the intrinsic value of an energetic connection. That doesn't change it. So even now, if the energy is feeling the strength and the viability of that connection and the consistency, even through a difficulty or hurdle, this is a lot of the energy saying, I can tell the difference between an energetic connection that I was trying to perpetuate and keep forth, and no matter what I did, couldn't make it right, versus an energy saying, this is something that feels right, even if everything around it feels less than right. So we see even now a lot of that kind of like energy feeling some sense of like satisfaction that's allowing for that architecture of patience. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, coming into divine union, this is a cause for celebration. This is a lot of energy that feels like they may have accomplished something, having needed to be navigated about making some modifications and adjustments to partnership over between that cycle of the 2 Capricorn full moons. And that we almost see here feels like some point of vitality or a cause for celebration, because now the energies are in alignment. Masculine being in this alignment at the time that they brought forth the energetic offer, feminine matching and meeting them at the end of that aisle, if you will, at the time that they saw that the masculine could walk down it. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, within the divine union, deep within the divine union right now, this is the sanctity and affirmation of feeling the sense of being on the same page, of navigating the same energetic hurdles, of being kind of in I want to say, alignment, not only, and I have to stress this is the energy that doesn't just say that they're energetically in partnership in words. When they say that they're in partnership, it feels to them like there's an intrinsic connection in the lessons that they're bringing forth around one another, because that's that sense of the mindfulness of the energetic connection that they recognize and identify. It's not just the fact that it's there, it's the fact that it feels like it is alive. It feels like it is affirming. It feels like it is changing the composition of the self via adjusting and modifying your own perception of the world around you. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Hangman in its reversal in combination with our 2 of Pentacles in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with Judgment in its reversal. So, masculine and feminine energy deep within the divine union frequency. I need to stress this. It isn't the fact that this is energy that questions themselves, right? It's not the fact that this is the energy that changed for the sake of the counterpart. This is the energy that feels the vitality of being in connection with a counterpart so much as it feels like it gives you more perspective around things that you may have felt like you had some kind of predetermined actions in prior to this point. So we see and recognize even now for a lot of that energy in that modality, it's that, the gift of the connection is one that it almost allows you that feeling of reconsideration, of being able to see something from multiple perspectives. So even here, it's like that recalibration of seeing something in a different way that allows you to address it in a different way. And we see that that work is happening right now for both masculine and feminine energy. And it has to do with the experience of what the problem is that is allowing for a different facilitation point. So again, if this is feminine that may have come into that space of over apologizing for themselves, of apologizing for their lack of ability to be everywhere at once, at their lack of ability to give everything to everyone. This is a lot of the feminine energy that's reorienting their own perspective on that and saying, that's an impossibility. I need to be practical and pragmatic, and I need the energy around me to also share in that same sense of practicality and pragmatism. While for masculine energy, that is in that modality. If these are situations or circumstances wherein, again, masculine felt like they had to rise to the occasion if someone was provoking them or articulating that they were acting like a child, this is the masculine energy re-pivoting on that perspective and saying, if someone has the audacity to approach me like a child, then I don't oblige them by responding as if I was one. So we see even now that it's the ability of seeing the perspective of the counterpart that is changing the ability of the energy to navigate circumstances. And that is why we see even now, that's why that change doesn't feel like it is required. It feels like it is within. It feels like it is internal. Masculine and feminine energy right now coming into divine union. A lot of that work of the energy coming into divine union right now is that moment of, again, it's the recalibration that allows for celebration. Because if this is energy wherein something was said, masculine recognizing and realizing that when masculine says something to feminine, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, that the combination of the commitment is not just the words, but the activation of the words being combined. This is the masculine that recognizes that they've kind of come through. Like this is the bookending of the Capricorn full moons, the 2 Capricorn full moons that allowed for that kind of testing ground, as it were, in terms of recognizing and identifying whether that change was there. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy of the masculine, feeling that sense of having that moment of the energy around you, potentially testing you in that modality, and then you feeling that sense of making that choice. That's that recommendation. That's that point of masculine recognizing that commitment isn't just words. Commitment is alive. Commitment is articulated in the choices that you make at every moment and the prioritization of what you make around and surrounding those choices. So for a lot of the energy right now, like that ability of showing the feminine that not only can you articulate a tone of choice, but you can activate upon it over and over again. This is the masculine that's, again, almost committing to the energy of saying, I'm always going to show you. I'm always going to show you. This isn't something I move towards with ease. This is always the choice I will make. While for feminine, that same modality of expression occurring, if this is feminine that saw and recognized those modalities of the masculine and having to have that sense of trust towards the masculine, this is the feminine doing the same modality, if you will, in terms of having the patience to allow for the masculine to activate, but also not letting that be interminable. Because this is the feminine saying, I trust you. Like even in those modalities that I recognize that there'll be a space between what you say you do and you will do, I will trust that you will be there for there. I will trust that you will do that, and I will do the same as well. So we see even now that that's a lot of that energy that is feeling the vitality of the commitment because of the ability of the energy, not just to say that they're willing to like do something in a certain way, but also in the ability to activate upon it. Masculine and feminine energy right now in separation, a very similar process that we see is occurring potentially for a lot of the energy in separation right now. Specifically and particularly, if these are modalities wherein these are connections that are being formed in less than ideal situations and circumstances. Well, again, I'm going to say it. A lot of clarity may be coming to bear in relationality to something that feels like it is deserving of being articulated as a true inconvenience that suddenly gives clarity to anything in the past that felt like any inconvenience was cause or reason for something not to feel like it was in alignment. So we see even now that modality, like the advantage of a lot of this energy, even if this energy does not come into divine union frequency, it feels like it is healing in the process of this energetic experience because it is providing clarification. It's providing a point of comparison, which is creating a vast amount of reconsideration on what was experienced in the past from the context of the present. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our 2 of Pentacles in combination with our 10 of Pentacles in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Page of Wands in its reversal. This card may also look familiar. I believe we had it yesterday as well in the same position. Now, masculine and feminine energy and separation. I'm telling you right now, this is I want to say this right now. Something that is happening right now that is important as it relates to communication, even if that communication isn't robust. Even if it isn't robust, it's the ability of that communication to articulate why it is not robust. It is the energy that is utilizing that pathwork of patience and discernment. And a lot of that is, again, I'm going to say this again because we're still moving through some of this cycle, not coming into a space or place of assumption. But when you feel the need of coming into assumption, allow the introspection to guide the intuition. So remembering and reaffirming that a good energetic commitment, a good partnership is never damaged by a question. It's always fortified. So we see even now, if these are energies that through difficult circumstances, there is a profound amount of communication. There's never a question that's asked that isn't immediately answered. This is the energy that is not only building that clarification on how easy it can be to facilitate a healthy connection, even in less than ideal circumstances, but it is closing any of the connections in the past wherein that may have been proving a difficulty or a hurdle. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, for a lot of the energy that's coming into divine union right now, this is that moment of finally being able to air the anxieties, the fears, the doubts, the uncertainties, because it's that modality of feeling like you have effectively entered calm waters, that whatever that work you set out to do in deepening an energetic commitment between those two full moons, it's been successful. And so now it's almost like that ability of saying, oh, I'm so relieved. I didn't want to say this at the time. Or I wanted to tell you something. This happened to me once. Like this is the energy that feels like they can kind of finally come into, I want to say, the expression of the anxieties that they may have been carrying because they feel like they've come out the other side. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is deep within the divine union frequency, navigating those hurdles, working through them energetically together. This is, again, the energy that recognizes the changes in the self. The changes in the self that are not necessarily occurring because you desire to change for another, but simply by being in the alchemy, being in the osmosis of surrounding oneself with someone who, again, you trust, you amplify, you feel that sense of conscientiousness and understanding and alignment. This is a lot of the energy that may be feeling that intrinsic nature of recognizing those patterns in the self that may feel familiar to the counterpart, that you may be like being like, oh, I'm doing something that they do. I'm almost like intuitively doing something in a way, because this is a lot of the energy that's like doing dual path work right now, because not only are they navigating the experiences of their own connection, but they're recognizing and identifying the work that the counterpart is doing that feels very aligned or similar to theirs in the process. Final card for today's spread between our Judgment card in its reversal and our Page of Wands in its reversal. One card to clarify. Clarification coming through right now with our Eight of Cups. Love to see, and it's upright. Love to see this energy right now, because there's a lot of progression that's happening here. If there was any feeling, I know that a lot of the potential feeling that occurred during that bookending of the Capricorn full moons, it was pressure. It was pressure with not a lot of ability to activate on it. So it may have felt like a lot of stagnancy that was occurring there, or a need to focus on things that don't feel like they're like your passion center. There's like that energy within those two Capricorn full moons, which is like the pressure of the practical being exerted upon the passion center. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy right now, deep within the divine union frequency, feeling that energetic pressure, but not reacting to it. but experiencing the ability to endure and to be mindful through it. This is a lot of energy that is feeling and experiencing or recognizing some changes within the self that feel like even more of a precise alignment is the word that's coming towards me. Because for a lot of that energy, I'll say it again, if this is the energetic equivalent of masculine, having some modalities where something's coming towards them and almost saying to oneself, this feels like someone's treating me like a child. I'm not going to I'm not going to deliver towards them in such a way. I'm not going to oblige them the courtesy of me responding energetically in the way that they expect if they come towards me. And because that's that I'm almost saying, if someone tries to come towards me and have me act like a child, it's usually because they themselves are acting like one. So again, this is almost that modality of compassion, which is like the masculine almost immediately gets the benefit of not reacting in that way, that changes the perception of the masculine, almost in the same way that the feminine energy might perceive the masculine in that modality. So this is like the masculine being like, oh, I can almost see the way that the feminine sees here. And if this is the feminine coming into that modality of experiencing a situation or circumstance where they may have felt like they would have gone too soft, it may have felt like they would have been over apologizing, it may have felt like they would be too hard on themselves. And this is the feminine energy saying, if I'm going to stay focused on my path work, I need to be able to make hard choices. I need to remember that the energy around me will not take that personally. They'll appreciate and they'll respect that that is all about not a question of if, but when, right? That effectively ability of the feminine to come into that space of articulating upon it. You see even now, both of these energies are seeing things from a perception that isn't necessarily their own, but feels like it's a part of them, right? So even here we see that that is even further integration of the pathwork. Even the energy deep within the divine union frequency, moving deeper into the divine union frequency by shedding and letting go of the unhealed child energy. For feminine, that unhealed child energy is often overly apologetic, taking on too much accountability. For masculine, it is often overly reactive, feeling like one needs to prove oneself, to show oneself one is grown, that often indicates that one is not grown. For masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now, a lot of this energy coming into divine union is reaching that point of celebration, and it's bittersweet to a certain extent, because even here, this is the energy that is ready to energetically let go of some unhealed karmic energy. Because if these are spaces or places wherein a commitment was brought forth, and masculine experiencing the validity or feeling the shakeup of even some of the energy around you in the process, but again, not driving oneself forward to try to come into a state of repair, but prioritizing the energetic connection. This is the masculine that feels like they're going through an internal maturation process, because this is the masculine that says, I'm not reactive and being responsive, and I recognize, much like the energy of the feminine within divine union, that if I move on my own path work, I have to be ready to disappoint some of the energy around me. You see how the energy of do you see how the lesson of the energy that is coming into divine union is then brought up to the masculine energy within divine union and then being taken by the feminine energy, so these energies are connected? While for masculine, for the feminine energy, seeing that modality, going through that moment of resilience and resistance, being able to hold that point of patience, not assuming that the past was repeating itself, but letting one's intention guide them. This is the feminine coming into divine union that's taking the pathwork of the masculine, not taking something energetically personally, being able to navigate with resilience and patience that allows for the ability to observe the masculine being able to bring something forth into fruition. These energies right now, they're building into that space of learning the same energetic lessons. Now, for masculine and feminine right now, that is in separation. A lot of this work in separation is effectively being facilitated upon by the energy, again, having the same expression that we just articulated, the energy coming into divine union. If this is masculine and feminine experiencing a situation or circumstance that feels like it's less than ideal, but in the process, they're able to fortify and build a very strong connection, regardless and despite, well, congratulations. This is a lot of energy that just built closure on any experiences where, despite all of someone's best efforts, despite someone trying to make the absolute most perfect environment for something to energetically thrive, if that's energy that was going through a point of agony and saying nothing I could do could change the energy between me and another person, this is the energy that's having a little bit of a light bulb moment and saying, I can't change the energy between me and another person. I need to facilitate and cultivate. And this is that the energy that recognizes the difference between the energy that's moving towards one another in alignment, doing everything in their power to facilitate and cultivate that connection, versus the energetic equivalent of feeling like one is doing everything one can do, and regardless, nothing can come into fruition because the energy isn't in alignment. That is bottom of the deck on this reading for today is the Magician in its upright. So masculine and feminine energy, even here, we see that there's a lot of clarity and path work as it relates to intentionality. And one of the things that we kind of bring forth right now is that articulation and that sense about being very authentic in relationality with what it is that you aspire and desire, potentially with counterparts. We see even now that for a lot of the path work here, the ability to both recognize and move with intentionality towards what it is that you desire and aspire, a lot of that is that discernment point. That is, again, that moment of experiencing and feeling that sense of wanting and desiring the counterpart to be able to move in accordance with you. So if these are spaces, and again, a lot of this work is a continuation on the healing that is being facilitated in these ways. Because if this is masculine energy and separation that's trying to move towards feminine, but the circumstances are less than ideal, this is almost masculine looking at feminine saying, please know, I'm not trying to build a world of illusion around you. Please know that this is not a deception. Please know that this is not something I'm trying to utilize or maintain, that I'm trying to come towards you with authenticity. And I recognize how much trust it takes in the process because of experiences in the past that you may have experienced someone who is moving towards you with less than ideal, with less than ideal intentions. While for feminine, this could be a lot of that same modality that's at play, as it were, in terms of looking towards the masculine and not letting the shadow of the past overplay the intentionality that you feel that someone is bringing forth to you, because it can be very hard for feminine, having experienced wounds of someone distorting or changing the reality of something for their own benefit, that often feels like the pervasive wound, because that's that moment that you carry with yourself, and it makes it hard to trust those around you in the process. While for masculine and feminine energy, and that's something that is happening across all of the vibrations. For masculine and feminine energy right now, that's that healing from those circumstances or situations. Again, that's the same thing. Masculine looking towards feminine and saying, I want you to recognize that I'm not in that modality of creating a false reality. Feminine saying, I'm sorry if I felt like that or if that anticipation point was there, but that's because I energetically experienced something. So we see even now that's the energy that heals, because it feels like that motivation of creating together that almost like immediately heals any experiences wherein you feel like that wasn't occurring. While for masculine and feminine deep within the divine union frequency right now, that ability of not allowing oneself to be triggered, that ability of moving with intentionality, it's something that feels like it's continual, because for a lot of the energy here, this is the energy that's trying to come into better alignment with oneself. And that's that moment that feels like the observation of the self that is being facilitated and built upon clarity, simply by like having that beautiful magic of being able to see how another sees, that then clarifies your own perception of the self in the process. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and experiencing it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, graystrega.com. My private readings are done over video, and if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber name at the point of payment. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a two-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never PM you. I will never DM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do it there. Also, a couple of updates prior to us moving into personal readings today. First and foremost, thank you to everybody who joined us at our class last Wednesday on our exploration of the Empress card. I would like to invite you to join us next month at our next class, which will be held on Wednesday, August 14th at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern. We will be continuing our tarot studies with a deep dive into the Emperor card. All you need to do if you'd like to participate in those classes is become a paid subscriber to my Substack. Your subscription to my Substack will grant you access to each month's live classes, as well as access to the course materials and recordings for all of the previous classes. So you've got ample opportunity to catch up if you're just starting and joining us for our next class. You'll also have access to a one-on-one chat with me and the other students to ask any questions that you may have in relation to anything that we are studying. And if you become a founding member to my Substack, not only will you receive a discount on the full year's worth of classes, but you will also receive a one-on-one mentorship reading with me, wherein I will assess where you are on your own personal tarot journey and give you the insights in terms of how to utilize the classes and your own pathwork to the best of your advantage going forward. One of the things I really tried to focus on in these classes was make them so that they be usable to both the absolute novice tarot reader as well as the seasoned reader. There's definitely something there for everyone. So thank you if you're already joining us there, and I look forward to potentially seeing you at our next class. And even if you don't become a paid subscriber to my Substack, I would encourage you to follow me there to stay up to date on any new offerings, events. I post my newsletter there weekly, which gives you insight into my weekly live schedule. You will also get to know about any giveaways. Speaking of giveaways, I want to congratulate the winner of our giveaway in June, which we pulled. You can find the name of the winner over on my Substack. We are now doing our giveaway for July. If you would like to win a free tarot reading, just head over and fill out the 2-minute travel survey that you will find in the link tree on my website, on my link tree. Every entry that you give will add you another entry into the giveaway. So if you've already entered, go ahead and forward that to a friend, because when I pull the winner, not only will I be giving away a free reading to the person I pull, but I'll also give it to the individual who referred them to take the survey. So thank you if you've already entered, and I wish you the best of winning this month. And finally, for my clients seeking more offerings, I'm very happy to have a few new offerings that I am offering on top of my standard life path readings. I am now offering mentorship classes. These can be purchased on an individual level or as a class of 4 45-minute classes, so a full month's worth of classes. These can be focused on whatever area of study you are most invested in learning about. I take a very limited amount of students for this reason. Also, for my clients seeking more consistent tarot support, I'm very happy to now be offering weekly tarot insight readings. That is a package of 4 30-minute readings, one per week, that you can purchase so that you can stay more consistent on your own reading journey. I want to thank you guys so much for being here today and sharing in these messages, and we will do this again